matter who you are, where you are, what your choices have been, and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed, the light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Whole Soul Mastery Sounds of Circles Heart Sharing in the Round podcast today. I'm Marie Moeller, and I'm the author, intuitive, and the host of the Whole Soul Mastery podcast. I'm here today with Sharon Ramesbottom, Vanita Lakwala, Livia So, and Mary Lozano, who are joining me in this heart-centered conversation in the round. And as I was preparing for this podcast today, I was really feeling this energy of the mother coming back into my spirit, coming back into my essence, and sort of bathing me, even with the COVID, even with the global issues going on right now. And things can still be a little hectic, or we're seeing all these energies in the duality game and in the polarity in the planet, and fear and faith, and so many things happening. Mother Earth is also rising in our consciousness to be a balancing vibration. And when I was getting ready for this call today, I felt two things. I wrote a book. I'm just going to hold it up. It's called Little Bird's Earth Nest. And I was given this story. It's really a prayer, but I was given this story by my guides years ago when my life was going through a lot of challenge and had a lot of imbalances. And one of my Native American guides, who we'd spent a number of lifetimes together, was showing me and sharing with me in this story that the whole earth is our nest is our nest that we can rest in now, right? The whole earth is our nest. Mother Earth is our nest, and she's cradling us no matter what we're experiencing, no matter the polarities that pull us in one direction or another. She's reminding us to go back into the center, into our heart centers. And I just wanted to share that. It's a beautiful prayer. And I shared that in a different podcast. I actually read the whole story in Whole Soul School and Foundation, our nonprofit, and I'll post that link below in the description so people can bathe in the energies of that story after they enjoy our conversations here today. I also wanted to share a prayer that I found. It's a Lakota prayer. And I thought this would also just ground us a little bit in our conversation, and our listeners finding this conversation for their own centering right now. Great mystery, teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so that I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. And then this came from a website called thesacredscience.com. And the person posting this prayer was saying, according to certain tribes, the sacred space is the space between exhalation and inhalation. To walk in balance is to have heaven, spirituality, and earth, physicality, in harmony. And I thought that was just a beautiful place to take us into the sacred space together, connect with the mother, call in the energies of the mother and the sacred divine feminine into each of us and all of our listeners. Gender receives these, regardless of our genders, we receive these codes, these frequencies, and we can enter the space in our breath. This is where the conscious breathing comes in and connects us into our hearts. So if anybody would like to talk about, Sharon, you might want to lead us off, sharing a little bit about connecting with our hearts and, a state of heartfulness in our lives, what that means for each of us.
Well, thank you for that beautiful prayer. It it actually is a beautiful map as to how we move into wholeness. And that is what we're doing now. And so the heart, the mind, the body, and spirit all moving in together and becoming just whole. And for me, the heart is the place that everything starts from. It's my place where I'm home when I move there. And then from there, everything radiates out and connects me to not only who I am, but also to humanity and to Mother Earth and to God. So from that essence, from that divine spark that we have within our hearts, everything else just comes in together and integrates and becomes whole. And that's what is happening. We're moving into our oneness. And when we separate into our minds or even just into our bodies, we're only showing one side of ourselves, one aspect of ourselves. And we need to bring everything in order to come into the beauty of who we truly are, which are divine beings. And the heart is the home of that. And that's where, when I breathe through my heart, and through the breath, which is really God's breath through us. That is what gets us, I guess, into our balance and into that wholeness and into the connection within ourselves and everywhere else. So the heart is where I begin and where I end and where I like to live, but it really does just balance us all out and lead us.
Yeah, it is. It is a place of neutrality. We brought that word up before in some of our conversations. I know I talked about that a little bit with you, Livia, I think, but that, and this word keeps coming to me when I'm hearing you share, Sharon, is coherence. Is that, I don't even know what the definition fully, but there's a vibration to coherence and cohesiveness and this kind of coming together in that sacred space. And the breath is effortless. It's so, people talk about it from all different traditions, but the messages of living from our spirit and living from our heart and living from love and living from a place of openness and allowing, it is simple. It's our, our mental minds that are part of us. It's a version of us. It's a source of information for us, but that's the part of us, especially with the conditioning of our world and our education and our families and our cultures. It's made things so externalized that all the tools we need, somehow the certifications are outside of us. The things we need live outside of us. But God gave us, Source gave us everything we needed inside of us. And it is conscious breathing or sacred breathing or connecting through our hearts and breathing through our hearts, as you said, Sharon. These are things that can manifest worlds, literally. Like the breath is a portal into these divine worlds inside us. And sometimes it takes prayers like that Lakota prayer or conversations like this that help us create that pause in our busy lives, right? And, fall back into a state of grace in the appreciation and the neutrality that our breathing inspires through us. Who wants to, Vanito, do you want to speak about the power of the breath? I know you have in some other podcasts, but it's always a message that we can all bathe in even more, right? We're learning to fall back and to relax into that space.
This breath not only to empower us, but to help us relax. The exhalation allows us to relax. Many times we have different ways of doing the breath regulation known as pranayam. We may make the inhalation as long as the exhalation, or we may make the exhalation longer just so that we can let go tension. Many times we ask someone to breathe, they tend to go inhale very strongly and they forget about the exhale. And it's a pattern of taking in more and letting go less. So the elimination is more important than taking in, because you want to create space. And our human way of being has take more, collect more, don't let go. Don't let go stories, don't let go the past, don't let go possessions, don't let go failing relationships, don't let go. And there's then when full power comes in, there's no space for anything. We want to bring in that which is positive, yet we keep on keeping on with the old story. The victim mentality, the abuser, whatever mentality, whatever went on before. But we are here now. And we can only breathe in this now moment. So let's just breathe. And then the aspect of the breath we encounter, and especially nowadays in the coursework I'm doing, is they're focusing on the pause between breaths, inhalation, exhalation. It's called kumbhak. We hold the breath longer than the inhalation. There's nothing there. There's just a pause. When the breath stops, the mind stops. The mind stops operating. That's where we get polished clean. Our imprints are removed. So it's not about how long you can hold the breath. It's for each person to be able to understand how long they can. No competition. But we do exhale after the inhalation. We have a pause. We stop and we may chant a mantra or not. And after the exhalation, we have a pause. That's harder to do. But in that pause comes newness. And our imprinting falls away. So using the breath as a flushing out tool and an empowering tool. And then when we take the next breath in, we are recharging ourselves. We are recharging all of our aspects of being. The reason we do this is that when we are asking to be fed more fuel, we better be clean inside. Because if we bring in the fuel and we have a lot of heaviness and density inside, guess what gets pushed out? That means we may have a lot of discomfort coming up. So we want to be focusing on releasing gently in good times, all the time, keeping ourselves light and light filled, so that when full power comes in, guess what? We get superpowered. We can feel our superpower. And in that superpower, we do much good without even leaving our space, our present location. Like we were talking to Livia yesterday, and Sharon said she wants to send these peaceful vibes to Israel. That's how we use this superpower. We don't need to go physically out anywhere, but we can bless an area of discontent, and it is felt. So this is how powerful the breath is. This is how we work. This is how I work. I don't go physically anywhere unless I feel the inner calling, but I do use it all the time. And that's how many meditators are using this. The power of the breath, the focus, because whatever we focus on expands. So we send peace and love and blessings to Israel, and especially around Libya. And we keep her sheltered and in peace. Then she receives it. So she feels supported, and then she can carry on with whatever her work is in the moment. This is the power of the breath and our attention. Whatever we put our attention on, it's expanding. So we're very discerning of what we are putting focus on and what we are taking in at the same time. That's the breath.
Oh, thank you.
Can I ask you one more question about that? And I want to give everybody a chance to respond to what Vanu said. I just wanted to ask, so when people feel disempowered, if we understand it through the lens of the breath, if we access our power when we've released through the exhalations, if somebody's feeling disempowered, it's all the stuff that's occupying the space, all the old stories. But if we would use the power of the breath and, consciously exhale and release more and more of that, that is where our power restores. Our presence, our superpower comes back to us.
Because in a way, you're just emptying out the density.
Yes.
But you do need to breathe in well. So we do this deep breathing like we did in the last session, where we did a 3-part breathing into the belly, the chest, actually to the collarbone, which is the top of the lungs, so that the bags of the lungs fill up fully and empty fully. Most people breathe from here up. When you say take a deep breath, they fill this and they empty this. And then below where the diaphragm is, nothing is emptied. We have stale air there. So the less oxygen you have, the less power you have for your systems in the body to work, which means the person seems tired all the time. The systems in the body don't receive enough fuel for the machinery to work, because we are biomechanical or bioelectromagnetic beings. And so then we feel depleted, just like our car, when the fuel is not running to different parts, what happens to it? The same thing. So we focus on how well we breathe. That's why we say, let your belly expand, so that the diaphragm pushes the belly out, which means we are breathing from the bottom of the lungs to the top, emptying and filling completely, which means we are fully, the engine is completely provided with the tank being full. Now all systems go, and anything that happens to our physical body as concerned called illness, we recover very fast because our tanks are full. We recover very fast. We may have some symptoms, but our recovery is very fast, and our immune system is very high. You see? So we don't catch things. We only catch things when we're depleted, when we feel less than, when we feel lack, when we feel in abundance. We don't catch the lower vibrations. So this is how we're using the full breath. That's why it's good to train with some teacher who practices this in this way, how to fill your tanks fully. And then you're going to feel so empowered, in the sense your body feels well, your mind feels well. If your body's sick, your mind's gone. So you see, they're two connected together. And the person has to do everything towards that end, that I take care of myself, my body, my lifestyle. It's not just, okay, 1 hour of practice somewhere in a gym, and the rest of the day you imbibe foods that are not assisting you in expansion. They make you dull and dense. And also how you interact with people, language you use, curse words you use, everything, curse word is a word. The reason that word is called a curse word is cursing. It's not blessing. So what are we putting out? You see? So it's a lifestyle practice. That's the immunity we build for ourselves, not just the body. It's a lifestyle, and what we choose as foods, who we surround ourselves with, what we read, what we watch as far as television, who likes to watch, every single thing coming into the senses. We train our senses so well that the mind doesn't get imprinted with discontent. When we train ourselves, we flush our minds, we breathe well, and the mind is now a clear screen. And then God arrives, Sharon, through a small window in the mind. Down it comes into this physicality. And now God sits here. And God says, I'm going to play, but on my terms. So the senses are now not controlling the mind. We will be very discerning of what comes in or not. Does that answer your question?
Yes. That and more. So powerful. Thank you. Did any one of you want to talk about the breath? Livia or Mary, did you want to add to the energies that were calling in our collective awareness right now?
There's an exercise that I love to do. I bring in the breath from Mother Earth's core, the sacred geometry, up through the 10th and out through my heart chakra. And then I bring it in from the crown and out through the heart. And I visualize a person, a situation, anything that I want to send love to, healing energy through to. And I follow the breath. I bring it up and out through the heart. And then after a few breaths, I start to bring in this breath through from my heart out and expand it out to everywhere, all around. And then I bring it in as well. And it's just so beautiful, and it's so freeing, and it's so releasing and grounding and healing and powerful. It's magic.
It is magical. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Livia, about that, or we'll go to another thread?
No, I kind of feel that I feel like kind of the outsider looking in here.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very special actually, but everything is perfect, and for whatever the reasons, but they are perfection. I've forgotten all of the stuff you're talking about, and I kind of feel that maybe I'm like the viewer here right now. It's really interesting, and it's also really interesting because there's this like disconnect by me on the screen and me over here. There's something very lucid going on, and I'm kind of feel like I'm just here to shift right now. So I'm just grateful for everything. It's a very beautiful experience, and I'm choosing to stay in my heart, and kind of I feel like the breath has been turned into almost like amniotic fluid.
Oh my.
So it's I think that's how I can best be right now, because that's how I'm being. So thank you.
It's so beautiful. And it's such also just the receiving the amniotic fluid. We're talking about the nutrients, we're talking about soul care in the underlying energy supporting these conversations. And it's perfect that you're receiving those infusions of energy, and also that you listen. You're, in our roundtables, and for our listeners listening to this podcast, it is another level of discernment to know when it's ours to be a receiver, when it's ours to be the witness, when it's ours to be in that place of receiving the grace of whatever the energies we're in. Sometimes we feel like we need to be active and speaking, and, we've been an externalized society and an extroverted, and things are out there, but you're having a very, inner experience right now. And it's so beautiful to honor that and to reflect that to our listeners and to our, our heart sharing here that's unfolding right now.
So actually that does prompt me to more channel than say something.
Yeah.
I have a sense almost that it's like, I feel when I said like I feel like I'm the outsider, I feel almost that I'm holding a collective energy, and the four of you are doing the active healing, and I'm the active channel being healed. And I think so what you said about the active, like we do need to do things, but sometimes the doing is the not doing. It's really special. Thank you.
Oh my.
It is. Yeah, Sharon.
Thank you, Vanita, for your beautiful knowledge and wisdom that you're sharing, because I'm always learning. And Livia, I feel you. And so we are one, and you are holding space. And so I just wanted to say something about coherence because you had mentioned it. And from what I understand and through heart math, coherence is an alignment of bringing all your systems together in a balanced state where there is an ease and flow that is our natural inheritance. That is who we are. And we've cut ourselves off in so many different ways that we have to relearn and remember what it is like to be one whole organism within the whole organism. And so that we are sort of learning how to breathe as one within ourselves and then breathing as one as the whole, and learning to feel within ourselves and learning to feel as the whole. And so as we align our systems, our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual systems and energetic systems, and then we are able to show up in the present moment fully, wholly. And that is where our power is. That is where our power is, where our heart and mind are aligned and we are fully present in the moment, being and creating who we truly are and what we wish to see and experience and learn. And that is what our higher self is doing now, is integrating and bringing everything together. And through breath, the conscious breath, we are able to balance our systems in this physical form. And this is like the first time that we are bringing this 5D in physical form. And we are doing this so that we can live as divine beings in form. And it's happening. It is happening. But whatever way you wish to experience this is the way of your journey. So we are all sharing our own journeys. And then whoever is listening can pull this wisdom and that wisdom, whatever it is that resonates with them. And they will be able to integrate it and learn it and be it, because we're each our own unique beings, right? And so for me, it is, I'm aware that in order for my mind to stay clear, I need my heart to lead. And so that is where I focus on. And, but that's just my journey. And so that's what, in coherence with heart math, your heart as the pendulum, the number one pendulum in the body, as you connect with your heart and as you move your breath in and out, you sort of connect with your parasympathetic and autonomic nervous systems, and they come into balance. And everything comes into balance, heart and mind and body. And so that you then are in clarity and ease and flow. And that's how I see coherence.
It's so beautiful. There was a time a number of years ago, I don't even remember exactly, but my kids were small then. And I was just beginning to channel. But I remember sometimes when my kids would nap, I would nap. Okay. And there was a great wisdom in that. And I remember when I would lay down sometimes for just 30 minutes, I had this experience, and I never gave it a name, and I haven't really talked about it, but for a number of years there, when I was taking those little mini naps, when my kids were napping, something else was breathing me. Mm-hmm. I remember this distinct feeling that I felt, like the presence of Source giving me, I don't know if it was like nirvana breathing. I don't even have a language for it, but it was something that I had, relaxed into that state of the ease, of the alignment happening through the conscious breathing. I knew about that then, but it went another level inside me. And there's something, it was just extraordinary. And I was refreshed as if I'd had a full night's sleep after that experience. And I don't know if any of you have had an experience like that, but it was incredibly powerful. And I just wanted to bring up, I watch my animals. You know, Olivia, I know you have a number of cats. And so when you connect with nature, I watch my animals. They haven't forgotten how to belly breathe, like Vanita describes. You know, when I see them, or they're smelling a scent, I mean, they take it into their whole body, you know, but I see their full belly expand. It's so natural for them. And for us, it's become like a lost art, a lost healing that we're reclaiming, we're remembering, we're coming home again inside ourselves. And the breath is helping us to get there, right? It's so beautiful. And it's again one of those simple, graceful tools that, like, we're all wired with this ability. This is part of our divine design inside us, right? We don't have to reach outside. Like you say, Vanita, we could have somebody really help us who's skilled in this breath work. But even just bringing our conscious attention to it, right there, we activate our own inner teacher and we start the remembrance process. And I know through the frequency writer transmissions, that's something that has touched a lot of people. It brought the focus directly to the breath in some of the very beginning channelings that came through. And the guides have brought it in every single transmission since, because it is, what do we do when we first enter the world? We breathe, right? We take our breath of life. We take a breath of creation, and that's us. And here we are co-creating, breathing through these conversations today, bringing attention to the breath. And I'd like to add, you know, in this prayer, you know, the Lakota prayer says, great mystery, teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear and walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. And I think there is that's something else that this prayer and this conversation brings up in the breath. There's a trusting. There's like a relaxing into that trust, which is also what this little bird's earth nest story is about, is that the whole nest is, we can rest in the whole nest. It's a cradle for us. Mother Earth is a nest, and our breath is a nest. We rest in that breath, right? We're being inspired through the breath, and we're given life force. And I don't know if they're successfully people being breatharians, but I've heard about them, right? Are some people at this point, do you guys think, living on breath alone? Have they achieved that state of vibration? Do you think? Or are we headed there maybe in 5D, where we get our nutrients from the breath?
Sorry, Livia, go ahead.
No, Vanita, you respond to that. I want to respond to something previously. So you respond to that, because I don't have anything to say about that.
Yeah.
My personal experiences as far as breath and food, nutrition through food and nutrition through the oxygen of breathing, is that I practice yoga daily in the morning and meditation in the evening. Yoga meaning the whole package. There's the mantras, and there's the asana practice focused on the joints release and everything, sun salutations, and then the relaxation and the breathing. Now, many times I've woken up feeling maybe hungry, but we practice on an empty stomach. And then I may start off the practice imagining what I'm going to have for breakfast, you know, this, that, whatever. And it could be dense food with maybe I have reduced my gluten intake, but now and then I'll want, you know, buttered bread or something like that. And I said, no, I have to practice. After my practice, all that I do is I get up and I reach for a banana or an apple. I don't have any cravings for the food that I was going to choose prior to the practice. Also, when I start practicing, my hunger's already gone. You know, I am already recharged. So I many times I don't need to eat for a long time after the practice. So my requirements for food have gone down quite a bit. That's how creates a big change. Now, I'm not a breatharian, but I know that when I do the practices, I don't take heavy and dense foods. I can stay without food for long periods of time without calling it a fast. So it's natural because of the nutrition being provided by the breath.
That's beautiful. I like how you said that the nutrition being provided by the breath.
The main
That's
source of nutrition. It's the main source of, the main fuel is the breath. It has not been trained. We have not been trained to think of it that way. It's like the food pyramid says you have to have these things. We are actually operating with excess food matter in our body because we feel we have to have all of these food groups and those colors and these vitamins, and we'll be depleted if we don't have it. But actually our trunks are full. And there is actually no space between food, and because for food to really process in the body, if you have ever used a pressure cooker, have you used a pressure cooker, ladies? For the pressure cooker to really work, you don't fill it to the top. You have to put it 1/3 part of the pressure cooker is filled with food matter and water, and the rest is air. If you don't have the air, it's gonna probably, not cook well or maybe even explode. So in the same thing, when we eat, we are told in all Ayurvedic, which is the sister science of yoga, is to have our stomach 1/3 full, any meal. Because we need to have that space for everything, the gases to release, the enzymes to process, water content to flood everything. So we really have to understand that we need to not fill ourselves chock full. And unfortunately, in the USA especially, we go by the food pyramid very, very. It's the Bible for food. And unfortunately, we are constantly putting food stuff in. And it's not processing very well. It's not eliminating properly. And there comes our ailments. Food is not processed, it's sticking in our body, it's too much, and it's not done in regular timings. Just because we say eat fruit, we eat fruit whenever. We combine milk, dairy with other things. Food combination is another reason for ailments. Improper food combinations. So this is how we learn. This is my lifestyle also, Ayurvedic lifestyle, how we eat foods, what we combine, the seasons we eat the certain foods, and certain foods we will not eat in certain seasons. That builds immunity. So I forget what you just asked me and I'd travel somewhere else.
Oh, the breath is nutrition though.
It is nutrition.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. That's a conversation for another day, just a little bit more, because I remember you talk, I was even saying it to myself this week, of eating things that are, I don't know if it was clear fluids. You'd said it before about like things that pass through, right? Like soups and shakes. And, in contrast to the dense foods that, of course, we see in the US and other places, those are choices too.
But one more thing is each person's constitution is different. The work they do, the body type they have, the climate they live in. So we can't generalize. Each person's requirement is different. And we can't have a standard food pyramid for everybody. That's important to know.
Yeah, thank you. Did you want to comment? Was it Livia about something in the Lakota prayer? Do you remember what you wanted to say?
I do remember. I want to say one thing here as well. I think, like, intuitively, that yes, the breath is very important nutrition. And I think what we also need to include on that plate, pyramid, spiral, whatever, is the sun. Because that's, we're getting our codes. We are being fed by the sun. And like literally, I've made a point to go outside for at least 20 minutes a day. I'm like, hello Solaris, and I go to have my meal, and and that's really, I think that's something that we've that we can become increasingly aware of, that's a really, really important source of life, source of evolution. I just like I imagine like the code's coming. So I just wanted to add that in response to that. When Sharon was speaking about coherence, going back to that, I was having this like I'm the outsider representing the collective, etc., etc. I started to be made aware of that. I was feeling a lot of rage within myself, and I was breathing above it. I was being the witness to it, and I'm not sure how many people will benefit from this, but I know at least one will benefit from this. And we speak in very beautiful terms and wonderful warmth and love, but the journey isn't always that way experienced. And you spoke about the coherence, and I saw like a speedometer, but then I thought to myself, no, I see more like a gas gauge, and I saw it that way, just as you spoke about a pendulum. So I think that what I wanted to share is that the journey back to coherence has many vibrations along it, and perhaps using the breath, or maybe someone struggles to use their breath, or whatever it is, that something of mindfulness, just to have the awareness of witnessing, and not to think, well, you know, I'm filled with darkness, I'm not going to get there, this is too difficult, whatever. All of those things need to be released, and they don't get released unless we even momentarily touch on them, to witness them, to identify them. And rage isn't the most pleasant thing to sit in, so sit above it. But you pass through many things, whether it's different hours of the day, whether it's different days of the week, however it goes. But to return to coherence, we do pass over, however we determine to do it, many storms. And I just want to say, don't give up, because where you're going back to is home, and where you're going back to is the fullness of yourself. You're not inventing something or creating something. You're returning home, but we do need to travel through the places that we've detoured. So that's what I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Livia, thank you so much for that, because before you spoke, what came to me was to explain about feeling and how that ties everything together. And then you shared so beautifully about how to be exactly where you are and to honor it, and then to move above it, to connect with, to align with, and become coherent. And coherence is about being in the moment and feeling what you are feeling, and honoring that feeling, and then choosing a higher vibrational, or a feeling that is a renewing feeling, so that you can breathe that in, and that helps balance your systems, so that you're able to honor everything about you, every feeling you have, but also know that within that moment you have a choice to feel it, to release it, and then to choose a renewing feeling that brings your systems more into balance with a higher vibrational way of being. And so it is that, and I'd love to hear from everybody about how they work through their feelings, because it is the feelings that lead us forward. And it is us understanding how we are feeling in the moment. So Livia was so aware of what she was feeling, but we don't usually allow ourselves to do that. And a lot of times we'll push the feeling away, but we won't sit with it. We won't experience it and honor it. And so I just know that it is our superpower. Feeling is our superpower. And it is something that with feeling and breath and choice, brings it all together where we can experience what exactly we want to experience. And so I just would love to hear from all of you about feeling, just what that means and how you use it.
I respond to that.
Yeah.
Like, again, I've kind of done the gamut of things, studied psychology, seen therapists across the years, dedicated myself beyond belief to a psychoanalytic experience, all the while repressing higher knowing and just being. So all of those kinds of more traditional approaches are about being in the feelings, but kind of, for lack of a better word, wallowing in the feelings. And with the process of transcendence and for me, understanding the reason why the ego is and why the ego isn't required, for my personal understanding, I began to understand, or it was also brought to me, the concept of not identifying with the feeling, which is what the traditional methods that I'd experienced encouraged one to do. Identify with the feeling, label it, give it a name, give it an address, put the people on, who was involved, all of that kind of thing. And the way that I understand it today is, if I'm experiencing a feeling, it's not a feeling of now. It's something that is within me, that is a frequency that is being triggered. So the match is outside and the activation is occurring inside, cellularly or whatever. And what that match outside, that incident, whatever, is allowing for me to do is to release that which is trapped inside me. So the way that I understand feelings today and work with it is this deep understanding that really all that I am is love. However, I'm carrying certain other things along with me. And so that allows me not to dissociate or split off in a sense, but it allows me to have clarity that what is being felt isn't me, and it is a clearing process. I'm not being very clear, but it's a clearing release process. And when I really understood that there are no new feelings, because the only feeling, experience, truth that I am is this love, is this oneness, and everything else is about a detox in a sense. And that's really been a major shift for me. And it required that willingness of being willing to let go of stories, being willing to let go of identification, being willing to let go of attachment. Like, how many people, myself included in the past, you'd rather be miserable and right, or, justified and martyr, all those, hold on to those feelings. When really, when you have a sense of self on this transcended level, you see them for what they are. And that's just, for me, been a massive, like, wow, the doors to heaven open. That's kind of just what I see. So So that's my experience of it all, most of the time when I'm awake.
It's incredibly beautiful, and I resonate with each what you shared about the coherence, Sharon, and you, Livia. And you know, I had two feelings come up when I was listening to you. One is that as I feel, I've always been a big feeler, and I think it just, such as an empath, I was probably just feeling my toroidal field and that just course of energy through me, even as a little kid, but also as an intuitive, picking up things that were versions of me outside of me, but you know, bringing into my story other people's stories. And so it is a journey for the empath to learn what is mine and, you know, what isn't me, what is others, and what is something I'm working. And I know it's all a reflection of us anyway, but as a feeler, I had to learn how to experience that level of energy all the time. And until I think I got a little bit older and learned how to become more of the witness observer before I even had that language, that I could, you know, experience the emotion and the story it was attached to, or the feeling that it was attaching to the story, and also be a witness of me having that experience. And I think, I don't know that I made the conscious choice to do that. Something just started to shift inside me in my seeking and searching for authenticity and my true self. And then as you were talking, Livia, I got this feeling of like the stories and the dramas and all those opportunities we have to latch on to the things outside of us, mirroring a vibration that's inside us that we're carrying. That is kind of like the sandbags that came up in some of those videos I've done in the past, right? We do carry these vibrational sandbags that will match with anything that's in resonance with those old stories. And so you have that bag on one, if there's a scale maybe of 3D, 5D, I don't know if that's how I saw it, but I first saw the sandbags and I was resonating with what you were describing, Livia. Then I remembered and I could feel the guide showing me the divine satchel that we have of our soul skills. So if the sandbags have density and weight in 3D, the divine satchel is a lot of our tools that are much lighter, and they come through the witness observer. They do come through that ability to see from a different lens and perspective that we are human beings having these human experiences. We're spiritual beings having these human experiences. And somehow I know that the divine satchel really in the end befriends the sandbags and then helps them to release. It's like the parent comes in to assist those heavier sandbags to release, but it doesn't shame them. You know, they're a part of us. We feel them. We witness, observe them really through the divine satchel of soul skills. We are on the path to remember now as we all are rising. And our feelings give us the cues of what we're experiencing in human form, so we can call in that divine satchel. So I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but it's interesting. Sometimes it helps me to have the visuals to give language, even in symbology, to the intense emotions we can be having, especially in the world at this time, right? So much is coming up. Anything that's out of alignment with our true divine nature is coming up to be breathed away, to be witnessed and seen and released in with whatever tools we use to release those things. So we're honoring all of it right now. Yeah, it's powerful.
So crucial to remember that, well, this is how I see it anyway, my perspective from my vantage point, and someone will or won't resonate with it. But we can't experience something outside unless it's still ticking within us.
Right.
So we can't look at a situation and like see, you know, if I was feeling this rage, and I can say I don't think it was my rage, I think it was a collective. Well, I wouldn't have been able to pick up on it if there wasn't still rage residing within me. So I think that comes back to sovereignty. It's a very slippery slope, the empath experience, and that, because actually, as you then said, it's nobody else's stuff. It's all our own. We wouldn't be feeling it if we weren't holding it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also what it empowers us to transmute it, because again, when we transmute what is our vibration that we see in that external event or story or whatever, we are also transmuting it for the collective. And so it can be incredibly painful when we're the one experiencing those feelings. And yet it's incredibly transcendent at the same time when we awaken to what you're saying, Sharon, too, is the power of choice. When the power of choice, and the power of choice comes through that pause that Vanita talks about, you know, all these things come, they all weave together, because if we're just in the ego reacting, and Renee Tainter, who's not in this podcast, but she's in some of the other podcasts, she talks a lot about the reactive creator and the conscious creator, right? And it is that breath, that stillness, that pause, that moment where we can witness, observe, to see the choice before us, and we can experience emotions, intense emotions like rage, you know, intense anger, whatever it might be. And we can also make the choice to use some spiritual tools, some things from our divine satchels, to make a different choice that somehow moves that energy in a different way on through. And I think that's the power of the awakening process happening in so many of us. And it's not always joyful. You know, a lot of these things that are processing and moving through us can be incredibly painful. And yet we're just the courageous epic heroes that signed up to be here now, to be doing this work together, and to be languaging it in our own ways from our own journeys, that in some ways, like you said, even if this helps one person, and I can't tell you the number of people who write in the comments or send me emails. I meet those one persons, but there's many of them. There's a lot of people who receive these messages and see us living it, languaging the challenges of it, and also the rising through it. And it is quite a journey. It is quite a journey. Yeah, Vanita.
So since we have been doing this work for so long, and we sort of understand the trajectory of it, where it's heading, I know that, you know, I'm always a skeptic until I see it's a personal experience. And I've tried and tested many approaches, finding that these approaches of being in a neutral field, of focusing on the positive, trying it out for myself, that I find my storylines have changed. So what I understand myself now to be is I have walked away from societal norms, even familial norms, and everybody's okay with that. See, we are so hesitant to walk away. We have this idea we won't be accepted, or will be reproached, but I find that people are more understanding now. And walking this way, I found that I have become a new being, and I do have a new approach. So the way I am focusing now is I do speak very differently. I respond differently. I don't have the same platitudes that others have. This is how we get to seed something else. So I rarely go back to the past for anything. It's not my training field anymore. We are creating new training fields. So new being, new approach, new attitudes, coming from place of being centered and in joy. Finding our joy spectrum, whatever it is, whatever gives us joy, we go towards it in our doing especially, because we are being joy, no problem there. But even in our doing, we stop the compromising to please the outside world. Because the outside world, you see, it has been a world where the blind was leading the blind. There's a story in Indian mythology, and it's all about the Bhagavad Gita, and it's the battle of Kurukshetra, where the big battle between the evil and the good side, and Krishna is right in the middle, and Krishna really doesn't give advice. He just says, you made the choices, now you figure out how you're going to get out of whatever you got into, this battlefield you got into. The king that really started this, not he really did, it was eons before. The battle started eons before. The battle finally came to an end on a certain battlefield in a certain generation. But it started eons before. But there was at that time a blind king who was blind, and he was wanting a battle because he wanted to keep his power structure. And they were blind following the blind. Those who followed him followed. So we did have that kind of structure. We followed too. We followed blindly. Hoping here's the truth, here's the answer, here's where I'm going to find my peace, this, that, whatever. Now we walk on our own. We train ourselves and we train others. This is where I'm finding myself. I do go to yoga websites and listen to this master and this teacher, but we are our own trainer now. And we are now formulating is the word form and formulating coming together, and templating, like you like to use, Marie. I love that word. And contemplating. So because in contemplation is the template, we say, okay, we are independent thinkers. We will formulate an approach based on universal flow, because we are one with the universe. So I know I'm focusing this way. New being, new approach, coming from place of joy, harmony, peace, cultivating this within ourselves. This has to be cultivated in our personal field as farmers of this. So we cultivate it, and then our speech is related to that, our action is related to that, and basically our life is related to that. That becomes focusing on the 5D world and not so much on the 3D world that we've already left. And it's playing out the battle of Kurukshetra, as we call it. It has to play itself out. That's the karmic entanglement that each human got into, has to play out for them. So we say, okay, now we are hopefully stepped out of our karmic sign-ups, contracts, and we are now creating new relationships like this, where the languaging is very different. And the focus and the direction is very different. Because we have been that, done that already, done that already. Now we go this way. This is my approach right now. Because the storylines are going to play themselves out. So many battles. Everybody got into the battle of their choice. Now they have to play it out. And Krishna, who was the charioteer of the main character, the hero of that battle, did not give any advice. He said, I'm not going to give you advice. I'm going to just drive those 5 horses, which are the senses for us, 5 horses, and just be his presence was enough to allow the hero to awaken. Because the hero had to make a choice. Which side, what way he would favor. And eventually there was peace. So this is my thing, that we are new beings, we have done the work, we have scraped, we are here now, and I know I'm feeling in a place of support, abundance, prosperity, harmony, well-being, all of those qualities which are divine, beauty, and going out in nature, imbibing the 5 elements. So the 5 elements of our body are the earth, which is a root chakra. The second chakra is water element, water, vapor, whatever in the air. The 5 element is the sun. The heart is air. And ether, everything plays in ether in the throat chakra. So we go outside in nature and we imbibe that into our matrix. And we breathe well, of course, but we are taking and we are rebuilding our structure physically now, because our physicality is now being affected. This is my approach, that we rebuild and we demonstrate this to whoever is ready to come here. But until they're ready, we cannot drag a single being. It is choice. And lessons have to be learned. Can only be role models. That's it.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Amen.
Exactly.
Yes.
And one more thing is we are quantumly entangled. So if you think about quantum entanglement, then my being here doesn't matter. I am connected to you.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever I'm doing here is affecting you all, wherever you are. And it affects the whole of existence. We have energy channels running everywhere. Livia talks about it, about vibrational fields. And that is exactly what we want to focus on, that my wording is affecting everything on the substratum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so conscious of it, this quantum entanglement. And we also become aware of how we get entangled in another story. See, so that's why we build our immune. We create this kind of a auric field of light that only light may enter. And we're not leaving anyone out, but we're saying, either we align or we don't align. That's a quantum entanglement. I put a lot of attention on that too.
That's like
And
that.
that's why,
Go ahead,
I'm so
Mary.
sorry. That's why it's so important to be in tune with our energies, because then we can immediately know when something has entered our field that is not ours. And we can be very quick to release that and clear that.
Yes. And I was going to say, to add to that was just this phrase came to me years ago, but admission is by vibration. That's true of anything. That's if we want to enter anger and hate or things that we're moving through. And it's also if we want to enter a deeper lightness or joy or, this 5D creation. And so that resonated with me. It's not that we're keeping people out. It's that literally vibration, especially in these higher dimensional fields, it either grants you access or not. And it's not that people are being kept out. When they raise their vibration, they'll have access. It's universal access, but it is by vibration. And that's a little bit of that 0 point energy too, entering that field of 0 point. You can't enter the field of 0 point if you're all tangled up inside yourself in all the programs of duality, because you're still in that wrestling energy. And it takes that unification, that intention of unity inside that helps us align with those frequencies. I wanted to add one more thing too, to Sharon, you asked about the feelings and, to how we move beyond the feelings after we've witnessed, observed them, made the choices, moved beyond them, or stayed with them and worked with them for a while. But one of the ways that I move past those feelings after I've taken in that energetic information that's coming through that I'm witness observing is creation. That's always been, I think I've been wired as a creator ever since I was a little kid. I was always the colorer, the painter, the crafter. I don't know. I was always playing and, I had in my own little world, I can't say that my family around me mirrored that to me, but I had this little inner child space. I was such an inner Lemurian even then. And I played, with my friends, some imaginary, all my stuffed animals. Like I was a person who played. And I think that, that's part of that creative energy. And as an adult, when I was going through the deep, challenging times, and even still now, when I have challenges or the energy just of the planet feels heavy, I allow myself, I felt heavier the last few days, actually. I've just been aware of something in the collective that I'm perceiving, but it also is a match to something inside me that feels those heavier energies too. And I've specifically made the choice from that awareness to create some things, to create some more projects, to turn to the things that I love. And I have found in an alchemical process, I'm not quite sure exactly what that is, but it literally transmutes the energy. The minute I'm like a toy maker, like I'm like an elf in Santa's workshop. Like, I don't know what happens, but I truly become this little kid again and this little happy elf. And I make things and I create things and colors and ideas. And I don't know, I'm just channeling bliss in a way. And it doesn't matter what I create. It really, it can be anything. It can be a poem. It can be a channeling. It can be a podcast. It could be an idea for a new podcast. It's like growing this little garden of all these beautiful treasures. And I get so excited. And that even if I'm in the lowest of the low vibrations, even if I've gone into fear or something, whatever, I'm picking up on the collective tension, right? I could still find my way into that little elfy place, you know, that little Lemurian creator place. And I think that's also, and then when you co-create and you come together with other creators who also are aware of their feelings and things or challenges they might be navigating in their lives, but we enter this space, we do bring this higher version of ourselves to the conversation. And we know that we're creating through our language, through our vessels, through our breath, that we're like growing this new earth garden. We really are seeding this new consciousness in these connections because we're living it right now, like with each other. And so that creation medicine, I don't know if that's a term, but it should be, because creativity is a medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're making it a medicine because that is, we're wired as creators. And I think that's one of the other things that Source has given to us, that when we think it can be hard, sometimes our minds say that the solution or the challenge is too hard to solve right now. That might be one option to tune into, but also we're wired as creators, and there's always something we can do, even if we build a little fairy hut outside next to a tree or something. I remember doing that with my daughter when she was really little and building these little fairy houses, right? And so there's something, or I just create when I connect with my animals and I take care of the herds of deer that come through my yard and they visit with me every day. And that's magical. There's a creation of the energy exchange that they come, and we know every day, and they're wild, but every day we know that we're going to have this conversation. And I feel like we created those conversations and we experience this kind of oneness that doesn't even need words, right? And yet we've totally had a conversation. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So I just wanted to bring that energy and that consciousness creation back. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have anything else they want to add before I close this out today? Is everybody feeling full? Yeah.
Just a quick, maybe this should be for another podcast. And I just wanted to mention how we feel is just so important, no matter what you are feeling, because that is where our compassion is. And so if you are in rage or anger or fear, and you explore that feeling and you honor it and you understand it and then you let it go, you will be able to be compassionate to the person in front of you that is experiencing it. So to honor our feelings, no matter what the feeling is, allows us to be more compassionate, more tolerant, more understanding. And when we push a feeling away, we push those people away that are experiencing that feeling. And so when we acknowledge it within ourselves and honor it, then we can acknowledge and honor other people that are experiencing this feeling, even if it's uncomfortable to us, even if we don't want to see it. We can understand what they are feeling and then be tolerant and kind and open to them as well. And so all the spectrum of feelings expand us. There is no good or bad, right or wrong, but we are moving into higher vibrational energies, and we cannot bring with us separation. We cannot bring with us judgment. We are moving into wholeness and love and unity and oneness. And so we need to understand, release, and then choose that. And I just wanted to add that because, people are feeling angry and afraid and scared, and they shouldn't feel that is, a feeling that they want to push away. They need to explore it, understand it, honor it, and let it go. And then choose to trust, and they'll be on their way, kind of. But I just wanted to add that because, yeah.
And that's part of the coherence. We have to allow ourselves to feel that which is uncomfortable to get back into that place of balance again. And by pushing it away, we've just amplified it.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank all of you. I get giddy before these podcasts. I have so many things I want to say, and and then I get tangled up in trying to remember what timeline I'm in. And so the fact that we all arrive here in all the different time zones we're in, I want to thank you all for the efforts you make to be here and be present and to share your messages, your vibrations, your insights, and your heart centers that I think over the course of this podcast, you know, models some of that coherence, how we find that inside ourselves in our journeys. And it's a journey every single day with finding that sovereignty and balance and love and joy inside us amidst all the other energies and emotions and vibrations going on at this time. So as the guide said, we came for these times. And I love that we came together in these times. And that was all perfectly aligned for us. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us in these podcasts. I welcome you to subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Whole Soul Mastery and share these podcasts with people who could benefit from these messages, because that's what we're doing. We're voices and messengers of the oneness, and also the hero's journey to navigate these energies in these times. And so if we can be a support of strength or support or insight or just tools of transformation, join us. And you can also visit us at wholesoulmastery.com, but a lot of the podcasts are posting on YouTube at this time. So until next time, I thank everyone for joining us, adding our light to these conversations, rippling that out to the world and to the Earth Mother, and to embrace that inner creator, that conscious creator inside. So I send love and blessings to all. Thank you guys. Blessings.
Blessings.